Welcome to Trimet 101. Today we're going to be talking about ride connection again. So last week I made a video, more of a general overview of what ride connection is, as well as my ideas for the future. But today I'd like to talk about one issue I have with ride connection that's such a simple fix, and if fixed, would open a huge door for anybody living within Washington County, Multnomah County, Clackamas County, the Portland metro area. So I've already left a card up there, as you saw for last week's video, and now I'm about to put another card up there, yes, more self-promotion, about my recent video that I made on dial-a-ride versus paratransit. So let's apply concepts from that video into this video to fill in the blanks. The largest paratransit provider in the Portland metro area is Trimet Lift. You'll see minibuses, old and new, and minivans that are just carrying passengers on them, and they'll say in big letters, Lift, right on it. Cool. So now, who is the biggest dial-a-ride company in the Portland metro area? Well, it would seem to me to be Ride Connection. In fact, let me show you a couple of things. There's a section on their website where they talk about door-to-door services, and that would seem to me to be another name for dial-a-ride. So that's nice. But let me show you something kind of frustrating. Who can use our door-to-door services? Currently, we provide door-to-door services for seniors and people with disabilities. Isn't that what Lyft Paratransit is for? Why is Ride Connection limiting their door-to-door services to certain groups of people? I don't really understand that. I'm sure Ride Connection does a great job at this, and I'm not saying that it's stupid that a service like this exists. What I'm saying doesn't make sense to me at all is that it seems 100% redundant with what Trimet is already doing. I don't really understand that. Ride Connection's dial-a-ride shouldn't really be called that. It should be called paratransit, but then again, that'd be too redundant with Trimet Lift Paratransit because it already exists. Now look at this. Rural Washington County door-to-door service, aka dial-a-ride. Not really sure why this is separate, but it does differ from the other door-to-door services in one big way. Eligibility. These services are open to all members of the public. So that means anyone can use it. Fares. All services are provided free of charge? Wow. Okay, well, I guess that's a thing. If you didn't know this, which I certainly didn't until recently, well, now you do. So they do kind of provide dial-a-ride services for anybody, but it has to be in rural Washington County for some reason, and there's a lot of factors and restrictions and constraints, and there's just so many things. Like, why can't I just schedule a trip with you guys and then that's it? No strings attached or anything. Just schedule a trip, pick a time, and then you guys show up and pick me up. I mean, obviously I'm not going to expect you guys to do that for free, but if you guys are offering the service free of charge, I'm almost tempted to try that out. For anyone that knows me really well, knows about where I live. I am not going to tell you that because I do not want you weirdos trying to find me, but I will say that I live in the middle of nowhere. I've said that before. And I live in Washington County, and I am in the service area where this bus could pick me up at. So I don't actually think they use buses, I think they use vans, but still, a free service like this that can take me anywhere? I'm almost tempted to try this. So let's answer the question, what could Ride Connection do to improve the dial-a-ride service in the Portland metro area? The simple answer is simply make it simple. Trimet could provide the paratransit using their Lyft program, and Ride Connection could provide the dial-a-ride services using their door-to-door program. So Trimet, Lyft, paratransit. Ride Connection, door-to-door, dial-a-ride. They're both separate things, and they both have their own purposes, but they're separate, similar things, but not so similar that they might as well be one and the same thing. It's my personal preference to use minibuses for these sort of services, but hear me out. In the higher density areas, like in Multnomah County, you could probably get away with using the minibuses for both paratransit and dial-a-ride. And in the less dense or rural areas of outlying areas of Multnomah County, but especially Washington and Clackamas counties, you could use the vans for both the paratransit and the dial-a-ride. And so as you travel around the area, you would see a lot of these vehicles, which you know would be transporting passengers to their destinations. I've talked about the benefits of dial-a-ride before, because it goes to areas that are not connected to by existing public transit, or at least not in a way that is convenient. And so it's a nice one-seat ride. For anybody that says, oh, well, driving is so much faster than taking public transit, well, it doesn't have to be if you have a good dial-a-ride network. I think if more people knew about this, I think more people would use it. I'm not sure what the ridership numbers are for either of these, Lyft or the door-to-door services, but if you could somehow convince the general public to ditch the car every once in a while and use public transit instead, and to further ditch the car by having excellent dial-a-ride and door-to-door services, that would be awesome. We really don't have excellent dial-a-ride service in the Portland area that I'm aware of. That's just general, almost like a taxi, but a taxi on your terms when you want it to be scheduled and that sort of thing, and much cheaper than a taxi. We don't really have anything good like that in the Portland metro area. But I think with these fixes, if you were to have a link on Ride Connections page that took you to Trimet Lyft, if you wanted to have the services for seniors and people with disabilities, and then on Trimet's Lyft page have a link that goes to the dial-a-ride services from Ride Connection, that way you have links on each other's page that can take you to each other. There's no competition, there's no fight, there's no war here. They're two individual services, and they're two individual service types provided by two different companies. And there's nothing wrong with that. I understand prioritizing seniors and people with disabilities. These are people that very likely cannot drive a car or choose not to for any sort of reason, whether it's visual, audio, or mental, or whatever. Any sort of thing that they're lacking. And so, yeah, the service makes sense to prioritize it for that, but we already have it. It's called Trimet Lyft. Ride Connection doesn't need to provide similar service. The dial-a-ride should be open to absolutely anybody to use. Now, obviously, you don't want a 7-year-old scheduling the dial-a-ride, so there's probably going to have to be some sort of age restriction, but in general, yeah, anybody in the Tri-County area should be able to very easily use some sort of door-to-door service. All right, and that concludes this 2-part mini-series on Ride Connection. Join me next week for a video that is not going to be on Ride Connection, and thank you for watching.